Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a glorious day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are committed to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. We often hear the phrase, "We don't have any friends." I'm not sure who coined that phrase. I think it was Dr. John Henry Clark, but I'm not sure. But we hear that expression a lot these days. We have no friends. The question is, why? Why don't we have any friends? Well, we have been on the losing end of a long con. That's what I believe Yvette Carnell said one time. So we have been on the losing end of history because we were living in lands that were invaded by other people, and we got jerked around in those lands, and ultimately many of us, because I'm not trying to speak for people who are already here, but many of us ended up in slave ships brought to an unknown land, and we have had to live here and try to get along with people who are basically aliens to us. Now, from my standpoint, we have done an outstanding job of getting along with these strangers. We have had to civilize them, and some of the young people on TikTok said even down to teaching them how to take a bath, how to cook, just how to live among other people in a civilized way. We have not completely succeeded, but we've made a lot of progress. Now, the general nature, I believe, of Black Americans and probably Black people, period, is to be welcoming of other people. We don't feel threatened by other people because we don't go to their lands to invade them and take their resources. So we are welcoming by nature. That's what I think. There has been propaganda going around the world against us, so that when people come into contact with us, they already have a preconceived notion about who we are. And that preconceived notion or notions, generally is not true about us. But why are we so welcoming? Because we want people to feel by us like we feel by them. We don't view them as our enemies, and we don't want them to view us as enemies. And because I believe we have a higher level vibration on the human scale, and I truly believe that, we don't see the reason for thinking that we need to feel better than anybody else, because we already feel like we're all that we're good enough anyway. We start out feeling that way, and if we're not tampered with, and if our children are not tampered with, we don't have an inferiority complex. The self-esteem problem comes in when people start tampering with you and trying to indoctrinate their belief, or try to indoctrinate you with foolishness to make themselves feel better about who they are. But things have been done to us to otherize us, to denormalize us. I'm not even sure that's a word. But to make us feel like we're not normal, like we're other, like we don't belong. And that does speak more to their self-esteem and their self-confidence and sense of security than it does ours. But this is something that I came across on TikTok. And I said, now this speaks to what has happened to Black people. It's one of the tributaries of oppression and discrimination that we have experienced in America. And it's one of the reasons why we try to be welcoming to other groups, because we want to be normalized. But I want you to listen to this, and then I'll say some more about this.
Cannot start with Freddie Gray, and you cannot start even with the police department in Baltimore. You have to start with the fact that that is a community that was wrecked by so-called urban renewal. That was violence. When they come in and they put the interstate through your community and they knock down your business and they knock down your apartments and they make folks huddle into small crowded housing and they essentially lock them in a holding pen. I mean, we talk about housing and education. We talk about neighborhoods as if it's not about racism. We act like folks just ended up where they ended up. But let's be clear, this thing that we in this country call the ghetto, that was created. And it wasn't created by black people, and it wasn't created by poor people. It was created by folks who were usually not black and definitely not poor as a holding pen for the people they didn't want to live amongst them. So we have to be prepared to call that violence. If you don't call zoning laws and redlining violence, even though it does violence, and you don't call it racism, then how are we going to solve that?
So see, that was one thing that we already know about that has been used intentionally against us, redlining. In that one conversation, there was a lot that he said. Holding pen, putting us in a holding pen, keeping you away from the rest of society, so that when other people come here, they are telling those people, oh, you don't want to go over there around those black people because they're dangerous, they're violent, they're this, they're that. It's a propaganda war that has gone against us for reasons that, we understand it, but we don't understand it. But we are welcoming to other groups because, number one, we don't hate people. And number two, we don't feel threatened by people. Number three, most of us are not stingy. We don't mind sharing with other people. And number four, we see ourselves as just regular human beings. We don't see ourselves as being violent or being mean. And that doesn't mean we don't have people among us like that. But our general nature is not to be that way. And I think that we should continue being the way we are to the best of our ability. Because at some point, there will have to be a change in the way the world operates. And we want to be on the winning side of that new world. And I just wanted to do this because I saw this video on TikTok and I thought, my goodness, the extent that people would go to hurt other people who really haven't done anything to them. People like that are really to be pitied. Now that's how I see it. But you might not see it that way. Let me know what you think about this. Just let me know what you think about this video. This redlining. Now what redlining is, and I looked it up just to be precise, redlining is a discriminatory practice that denies or limits services, financial and otherwise, to residents of certain areas based on race or ethnicity. Redlining is often used by banks, insurance companies, and other institutions to classify neighborhoods as hazardous to investment and to exclude them from loans, mortgages, and insurance. So what they do is that the banks will draw a red line, and this was done a lot in the past, in certain areas, especially in urban areas where black people lived. They would draw a red line around the black neighborhood, and during that, you were identified, and you couldn't get a loan, you couldn't get insurance, you couldn't borrow any money to improve on your house, and when you got ready to sell your house, it sold at a much lower rate than a white person's house of the same type would sell. The purpose has always been to keep us isolated and poor. Why, you say? Why do they want to keep us isolated and poor? They wanted to keep us away from them so they didn't feel bad about discriminating against us and working us for low wages. They always want to get slave labor out of black people. So these are some of the things that were done intentionally to discriminate against black people. Let's remember the three curses, really, that were placed on us when we came to this country as enslaved persons. Number one, that they keep us in poverty. Number two, portray the men as sexual deviants. And number three, make sure we didn't remember who we were. So these are the things we have to keep in mind as we go on our daily walk, because these things affect every aspect of our lives. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.